The wind howled like a wild beast across the frozen plains of Varela. Sharp snowflakes flew sideways, stinging any exposed skin like needles. Ethan Cross, a human envoy from Earth, struggled through the blizzard, his visibility no more than a few steps ahead. His communication device had failed 20 minutes ago. The storm's interference was too strong. The rest of his exploration team had gone ahead toward the Virelan settlement, but Ethan had paused to collect a strange mineral sample. Now he was lost. Every step felt heavier. His boots crunched over deep snow, and the bitter cold seeped through his thermal suit. His breathing grew shallow, his limbs slower. Then, just as he thought he would collapse for good, he saw a flicker of light through the white veil. A figure appeared, tall and slender, with glowing lines running along her long coat. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes large and silver like moonlight. An alien but not unfamiliar. Ethan recognized the species, Virelan. She didn't speak at first. She simply raised a hand, motioning for him to follow. Ethan hesitated. His training told him to be cautious, but his body was failing, and this was the only sign of shelter. He nodded weakly. She turned and led him through the snow with effortless grace. A few minutes later, they arrived at a strange-looking structure built into the side of a snow-covered ridge. It was smooth and organic, like it had grown from the ice itself. Inside, warmth wrapped around Ethan like a blanket. The door sealed silently behind him. The walls gave off a soft light and a faint humming sound. A strange scent hung in the air. Something between herbs and electricity. The alien woman gestured to a cushioned platform near a steaming basin of crystals. "Sit. Warm," she said in broken English, but her voice was calm and soft. Ethan nodded, too cold to speak. He sat down, letting the heat soak into his skin. His suit slowly dried. He looked around the room. Smooth walls with no sharp edges, shifting colors that seemed to adjust to his mood. "You saved me," he said at last. The alien tilted her head. "You needed help." "No one should die cold," she replied. She moved, gracefully preparing a bowl of something from a round pod near the wall. It smelled sweet and savory. She handed it to Ethan. "Food. Safe." He took it gratefully and tasted a small spoonful. It was warm and thick, like a soup, and surprisingly, good. As he ate, she watched him, not in a friendly way, but like a scientist watching a lab creature. "What's your name?" Ethan asked. The alien hesitated, then answered, "Sayla." "Thank you, Sayla," Ethan said, trying to smile. "I'm Ethan, human envoy." "Yes," she said, her silver eyes locking onto his. "Human. First one to come alone." That made Ethan pause. "Have others come before me?" She didn't answer directly. Instead, she sat across from him and picked up a strange glowing slate. Her fingers moved across it, and it displayed symbols Ethan couldn't read. "You are strong," Sayla said. "Stronger than others. You walk far, you feel much." He frowned. "You've studied us?" Sayla nodded slowly. "Your kind. Different. You feel more than most." Ethan finished the soup and leaned back slightly, still tired but curious now. "Is that why you helped me? To study me?" She didn't reply, but her silence was an answer itself. "You could have let me die out there," he said. "But you didn't." "No," she said. "We watch, but we do not let pain happen without reason." That answer gave Ethan an odd chill, not from cold but from confusion. The way she said it felt calculated. He looked around the room again. No windows. No need. "Storm outside," she replied. "No door either. At least not one I can open." Sayla smiled faintly. "You are safe." Ethan didn't like how she said that. Safe or trapped? "I should contact my team," he said, checking his wrist communicator. Still nothing. "You rest first," Sayla said. "Storm too strong. Later we send signal." Ethan nodded slowly, but a sense of unease had settled in his chest. Sayla seemed kind, but also too calm, too careful, as if this wasn't the first time she had taken in a lost traveler. And what did she mean by first one to come alone? What had happened to the others? As he laid back to rest, the room lights dimmed gently, as if reading his mind. Sayla stood silently at the far end, watching her tablet, her expression unreadable. Ethan closed his eyes, but his mind stayed alert. This wasn't just shelter, and Sayla's kindness wasn't as innocent as it seemed. Ethan woke to the soft hum of the walls around him. The room had no corners, just smooth curves and colors that slowly changed like waves under the ocean. He had rested, but something didn't feel right. His body was warm, his mind clear, but there was a strange heaviness in the air, like the room was watching him. Sayla stood nearby, completely silent, her eyes fixed on the floating tablet in her hand. The slate glowed softly, filled with alien symbols and moving lines. As soon as Ethan stirred, she looked up. "You are stronger now," she said. Ethan sat up, stretching his arms. "Yeah. Thanks to you, I guess. That soup helped." Sayla nodded but didn't smile. "Your body adjusted quickly. Human metabolism is very adaptive." The way she said it made Ethan pause. "Have you studied humans before?" Sayla didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked to a tall, curved structure on the wall and touched it. It opened silently, revealing several thin, curved rods. She picked one and handed it to Ethan. "This measures your temperature. Hold it near your neck." He hesitated. The device didn't look dangerous, but he didn't like how she kept testing him. Still, he took the rod and held it as told. It beeped once and showed green lights. "Normal range," she said, taking the rod back. "Your body resists virulent climate well." Ethan stood up, glancing at the sealed wall where he had entered. "I should try calling my team again. They'll be worried." "Storm still active," Sayla said calmly. "No signal reaches through the crystal winds." Ethan frowned. "Can't you send a message with your own tech?" "Not yet," she said simply. "Too risky." He didn't understand. Risky for who? Sayla motioned for him to sit again. "You still need rest. And more data must be recorded." "Data?" Ethan asked, crossing his arms. "You keep saying things like you're running tests." Sayla didn't deny it. "Yes. Observation helps us understand species, especially humans. You are unique." Ethan took a step back. "Wait. Am I the only human you've observed like this?" She paused. "Others have visited, but not like you. They did not respond well to the process." "What process?" Ethan asked, now more alert. Sayla sat down across from him, folding her hands. "You are reacting with clarity, calm under stress, kind, even when uncertain. Many species panic, some grow violent. But you, Ethan, you adapt." Ethan didn't feel flattered. He felt watched, measured. "So, I'm not just a guest, I'm a subject in your experiment?" "Not experiment," Sayla replied. "Evaluation." Ethan shook his head. "There's a big difference." Sayla's expression remained calm. "You misunderstand. We mean no harm. We wish to understand if your kind can truly connect. With us, with others. Not just through language or trade, but through feeling." "That's what this is about?" Ethan asked. "You brought me here to test my emotions?" Sayla looked down at her tablet. "Emotion is the one thing technology cannot fake. Your actions speak louder than your words." Ethan rubbed his forehead. This was more than strange. This was deliberate. "You knew I'd get lost in the storm." Sayla nodded. "Yes, we predicted the moment. It was necessary." He stared at her in disbelief. "You planned this?" She met his eyes. "To see how far a human will go to help, to trust, to survive without fear." Ethan felt a chill, despite the warm air. "That's why you saved me. That's why this house is sealed. You're testing how I behave when I'm alone, vulnerable, and watched. Selah gave the slightest nod. He stood up. That's not rescue. That's a trap. No, she said firmly. You are free, but you are part of something greater than yourself. Your response may decide much more than you think. Ethan stared at her. For a moment there was no sound but the soft hum of the walls. Then she added, You passed the first phase, your calmness, your trust. Now we continue. I didn't agree to any of this, Ethan said. But you continued anyway, Selah replied. Your actions were real. That matters. He didn't know what to say. Part of him wanted to demand. At least another part was curious, deeply curious about what this test really was. What happens next? He asked quietly. We observe more, Selah said. You will be shown other things. You will meet others. Not all human. But first you rest again. You will need strength. Ethan hesitated, then slowly sat down. This wasn't just about him. It was something bigger, and whatever came next, he was already in too deep to walk away. Ethan couldn't sleep. The room was quiet, warm, peaceful on the surface. But the silence was not natural. It felt controlled, artificial. He sat up slowly and looked around again. The walls seemed alive, shifty, hung gently with color and rhythm, like they were breathing. Selah was nowhere in sight. Ethan stood and walked across the smooth floor. The room curved without corners, and yet he felt trapped. No windows, no visible doors. Just the same warm, calm air pressing around him like a blanket he didn't ask for. He took a deep breath, and that's when he noticed it. The air wasn't normal. It had a faint scent now, one he hadn't noticed before. Not food, not warmth. Something floral, sharp. He wasn't sure, but it made his mind slightly fuzzy, his thoughts slower. Ethan stepped toward one of the walls and placed his hand on it. It felt soft, like skin stretched over bone. He pulled back, unsettled. He began pacing. He needed to stay alert. Something wasn't right. Suddenly, he saw a soft glow at the far side of the room. A section of the wall shimmered, then peeled back like a curtain opening. A narrow hallway appeared beyond it. He hesitated, then stepped through. The hallway was dimly lit, with walls that pulsed softly. As he walked forward, he noticed doors. Thin, vertical lines in the walls, none of which had handles, but one door was open just a crack. Ethan looked around, still alone. He slipped through the open door. Inside was a small chamber, much colder than the rest of the building. A faint mist hovered near the ground. In the center stood a platform with several objects. Old clothing, broken gear, a torn strap. With faded letters, Ethan's chest tightened. It was a UN symbol. This was human equipment, just like the kind issued to envoys like him, but it looked old, damaged. He picked up a broken wrist communicator and turned it over. It had ice crystals still forming on it. The battery was dead. Then he saw something worse. A worn jacket, half frozen, lying under a translucent sheet. It belonged to a man named Dr. Alric Rowe, a scientist from Earth who had gone missing on a Virulin mission 2 years ago. Official reports said he was lost in a glacier collapse. Ethan stared. Dr. Rowe wasn't lost. He had been here, and he never left. Ethan backed away slowly, his heartbeat rising. Just then, a voice came from behind him. You found something. Ethan spun around. Selah stood at the entrance, calm as always. He held up the communicator. What is this place? What happened to him? She stepped inside, hands folded. Dr. Rowe was one of the first. He did not complete the process. He became unstable. Emotional response too low. What does that mean? Ethan asked, angry now. You kept him here? You watched him? He was not harmed, Selah said quickly. He was suspended, preserved. We studied. He was not ready for further contact. You call this contact? Ethan said. You isolate people, you test them, you keep them in sealed rooms. That's not communication. That's a trap. Sayla's voice remained calm. You misunderstand. We do not hurt, we observe. You are not prisoner, you are part of something greater. You said that before, Ethan said, stepping back. But I don't trust it. You said I'm being tested for what? Why? Sayla looked at him carefully. Because your people want more. You seek alliances, knowledge, power. But we seek emotion, depth. We need to know if your kind can connect without conquest. Ethan stared. So all this was to see if I could care? Feel something? That's how you judge humanity? Sayla nodded slowly. Yes, many species fail. Too logical, too afraid, or too aggressive. But humans, you are different. You adapt through emotion. You build bonds. Ethan shook his head. And the others? Did they even know they were being tested? Most did not pass, she said quietly. Some became angry, some fearful, some tried to harm. But you stayed calm, even when confused, even when alone. Ethan looked down at the jacket in his hands. What about Ro? Sayla stepped forward. He will be returned. Like others. We kept him safe, but he must forget. Too much pain would damage future trust. Ethan's stomach turned. You erase memories? Only fear, she said. Not knowledge. Ethan didn't answer. His mind was spinning. This place wasn't just shelter, it was a test chamber, a psychological lab, and he was the next subject. He walked past Sayla into the hall. I want answers, real ones, no more mystery. She followed. You have already proven much. Soon you will see. He stopped and looked at her. You keep saying I passed something, but what happens if I stop cooperating? Sayla tilted her head. You already chose. The moment you followed me. The moment you stayed. Ethan walked back toward the main chamber in silence. The warm air surrounded him again. But now he knew the truth. There was something in the air. And it wasn't just heat. Ethan didn't speak for a long time. He sat in the main chamber again, staring at the soft, glowing walls. They still shifted colors, but now that he knew what this place really was, the room felt smaller, less like a shelter, more like a silent observer. Sayla sat a few steps away. She wasn't watching him like before. No tablet, no test. She just sat still, like waiting for him to say something. He finally asked, Are you doing this to others right now? Other humans? Sayla shook her head gently. No, you are the only one now. And what happens when you're done with me? Ethan asked, You wipe my memory? Like Dr. Rowe? Sayla was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke softly. Not unless you ask. Ethan looked up. That was new. I have a choice? You have always had choice, she said. We only guide it. See where it goes. He frowned. You don't guide, you control. You created the storm. You let me get lost. You planned this. Sayla looked down. We did. But you are not trapped, Ethan. You are being shown. Shown what? Sayla stood slowly and walked toward the wall. She touched it, and a section opened. This time, the opening was wide, revealing a long spiral ramp leading downward into dim light. What's down there? Ethan asked. Others, Sayla replied. Not humans, not Virulans. Beings like you, tested, observed, and changed. Ethan stood up. His curiosity was stronger than his fear now. You said I was part of something greater. It's time you show me. Sayla nodded and led the way. They walked slowly down the spiral ramp. The temperature dropped slightly. The light changed too, from warm orange to cold blue. The walls no longer pulsed. They were solid now, dark and silent. After several turns, they reached a wide room. Ethan stopped in his tracks. Inside were 6 chambers, tall, transparent cylinders. Inside each one stood a different alien being. Some looked calm, others asleep. One was gently glowing. One looked very much awake and was staring directly at Ethan. Sayla stepped beside him. These are the ones who passed their tests. They were not just tested for emotion. They were tested for unity. Ethan turned toward her. Unity? What do you mean? They are being prepared, she said. Prepared to become something new. A combined understanding. A shared network of feeling. Of memory. Ethan took a step back. Like a hive mind? Sayla shook her head. Not control, connection. We believe emotion is the true language. We want to connect species, not with machines, but through feeling, thought, memory. Ethan looked back at the figures in the chambers. And the others? The ones who failed? They were not ready, she said. Some returned to their people. Some forgot. Some chose to stay alone. Ethan's heart beat faster. So, you want me to join this emotional network? Yes, Sayla said, but only if you understand it. We will not force it. Ethan walked slowly between the chambers. Each being inside had a unique design. Some had multiple eyes, others, strange limbs or floating skin, but all of them had calm expressions like they were dreaming something beautiful. They look peaceful, Ethan whispered. They are, Sayla replied, because they are not alone. He turned to her. And if I say no, if I don't want to join, then we return you to your people, she said. Safe, as promised. And the memory wipe? Sayla looked at him seriously. Only if you wish it. You may keep your memories. But if you return with them, others may fear what they do not understand. You know your kind. Ethan breathed deeply. She was right. If he went back and told Command what happened here, they would panic. They'd see it as manipulation, control, maybe even threat. You believe humans can become part of this, he asked. You already are, she said gently. You feel more than you know. That is why you were chosen. He looked at her. For the first time, she didn't look like a scientist or a watcher. She looked like someone offering truth, unusual, uncomfortable truth. Ethan turned to one of the chambers. The being inside had glowing marks along its arms. For a moment, Ethan imagined himself in one of those pods, connected, remembering and feeling not just as one man but as part of something bigger. He wasn't sure what he was supposed to feel. Fear? Wonder? Both? Sayla stepped beside him again. You may decide tomorrow. Rest one final time. Then choose. Ethan nodded slowly. As they walked back up the ramp, Ethan couldn't stop thinking. What did it mean to belong to something more than yourself? And if connection could change the universe, was he brave enough to be part of it? Ethan couldn't sleep again. He lay on the soft surface that served as a bed, staring at the curved ceiling above him. The lights in the room had dimmed, mimicking night, but his mind refused to rest. He had seen too much, the chambers, the other species, the offer of something more. And Sayla's voice still echoed in his head. You may decide tomorrow. But how could he choose something he didn't fully understand? Sayla hadn't visited again since showing him the lower level. He was alone now, truly alone for the first time since arriving. No tests, no scanning, no conversation, just silence. Ethan sat up, rubbed his face, and stood. The room was still warm, the air still soft, but now it felt heavier, like the walls were waiting too. He stepped toward the same wall Sayla had used before. It opened when he approached, responding to his presence. The hallway was quiet, just like before. This time, Ethan didn't go down the ramp. Instead, he turned left, toward the area he hadn't explored. As he walked, the corridor grew darker. The lights flickered gently like old lanterns. He passed sealed rooms, each with strange shapes and patterns on their surface. Finally, he reached a door that looked different. It didn't open automatically, but it had a panel beside it with symbols and a single small handprint scanner. Ethan reached out. When his hand touched the panel, it glowed faintly, and the door slid open. Inside was a round room, smaller than the others. At the center was a platform, and floating above it was a holographic map of the galaxy. Ethan stepped closer. The map was alive, moving slowly. Points of light shifted across it, some blue, some red, some yellow. There were hundreds of them. Sayla's voice came from behind. "You found the Nexus map." Ethan turned, surprised she was there, but not startled. Somehow he expected her. "This shows all the places you've tested, doesn't it?" he asked. Sayla nodded. "Every world where contact has been made, every species observed." He pointed to a red blinking dot. "What does that mean?" "Failure," Sayla said softly. "Species that rejected unity, that chose fear or conflict." "And the blue ones?" "Connection," she replied. "Willing minds, open hearts." Ethan stared at the map. "And Earth?" Sayla walked beside him, still undecided, still watching. He looked at her. "That's why you picked me. You needed one person to prove it could work." "Yes," she said. "One heart that opens can guide many." Ethan turned back to the map. His thoughts raced. He thought about the people back home, his team, his family, the mission leaders. How would they react to this place? To the truth? They wouldn't understand. They'd be afraid, suspicious. But what if he could change that? What if he could show them what connection really meant? "Tell me what happens," he said. "If I join." Sayla looked at him carefully. "You will not lose yourself. You will remain Ethan. But your thoughts, your memories, your feelings, some of them will be shared. Not taken, just touched." He frowned. "And if I feel something private?" "It stays with you," she said. "We do not steal. We only receive what you allow." Ethan was quiet for a moment. "And if I agree, can I still go home?" "Yes," Sayla said, "but changed. Not by force, by choice." Ethan looked back at the red and blue lights. A decision like this wasn't small. It would shape everything after. He whispered, "I don't want to lose who I am." Sayla stepped closer. "You won't, but you may find who you were meant to be." Ethan took a long breath. The air smelled clearer now, not floral, not strange, just clean. He nodded. "I'll do it." Sayla's eyes softened. "Then follow me." They walked in silence, back through the hallway, back down the spiral ramp, and into the deep chamber where the 6 transparent pods waited. One now stood open, waiting. Ethan stepped forward and placed his hand on the edge. It was cool, smooth, almost comforting. Sayla spoke softly. "When you step inside, close your eyes. Think of someone you love, someone you trust. Let the memory guide you." Ethan nodded once more. He stepped into the pod. The moment he did, a soft hum filled his ears. The chamber glowed with a light that pulsed like a heartbeat. He closed his eyes and thought of his sister, her laugh, her strength, her belief in him, that he was more than just a soldier, that he was someone who could bring peace. The light grew warmer. He felt something, not pain, not fear, just connection, like 1,000 quiet voices, not speaking words, but sharing emotions, curiosity, kindness, hope. He didn't lose himself. He felt more himself than ever. The pod stayed closed for only minutes. But when it opened again, Ethan stepped out slowly, his eyes calm, his heart full. Sayla smiled. "You are ready." Ethan didn't know what would come next, but now he was no longer alone. The pod door hissed open. Ethan stepped out, his legs a little shaky, but his mind clear. The air in the chamber felt cooler now, as if something had shifted, not just around him, but inside him. Selah stood nearby, waiting. She smiled softly. "You felt it, didn't you?" Ethan nodded slowly. "It wasn't like anything I expected. I didn't see words or thoughts, I felt understanding. Kindness. Sadness, too. But shared. You are now linked," Selah said. "Not controlled, not owned, just connected to something larger." Ethan looked around at the other chambers. The beings inside were still, peaceful. "I'm still me," he said. "But I also feel less alone." "That is the purpose," Selah said. Ethan stepped forward, curious. "So what now? Do I stay here forever?" Selah shook her head. "That is not your path. You must go back. Take this connection with you. Let it grow." "Back to Earth?" he asked. She nodded. "Your people will not understand right away, but maybe they will feel what you now feel, one by one." Ethan took a deep breath. "I don't even know how to explain it." "You don't have to explain," Selah said. "You just have to be." The walk back to the main chamber felt different now. The walls no longer pulsed with strange colors. They felt calm, familiar. In the central room, a new doorway had opened. Inside was a sleek silver vessel, smaller than a shuttle, large enough for one person. Lights glowed softly on its surface. "That will take you home," Selah said. Ethan looked at it, unsure. "And no one will stop me?" "No one," she answered. "We never trap. We only offer." He turned to her, suddenly serious. "Will I ever see you again?" Selah gave him a knowing smile. "The connection does not fade. You will always feel us. And if you ever return, we will know." Ethan paused. Then he stepped forward and held out his hand. Selah looked at it, then gently placed her own three-fingered hand into his. No words were exchanged. They didn't need them. Ethan stepped into the vessel. The door closed with a quiet sigh, and the room faded from view. The journey home felt like a dream. Ethan wasn't sure how long it took. The stars outside the small window passed like silent messengers. Time felt different. Slower. Softer. He wasn't sleeping, but he was thinking. Deeply. He remembered his training, his missions, his people. But now, he also remembered something new. Feelings that didn't belong only to him. Emotions from distant minds, shared through something deeper than words. Finally, the ship slowed. Ahead, Earth appeared. Blue, beautiful, and bright. The vessel entered orbit, then descended carefully. No alarms, no military signal. The ship knew where to go. It landed in a quiet desert, far from cities and bases. Just the wind and sand waiting for him. The door opened. Ethan stepped out into Earth's air. It was drier, sharper than the Virellan world. But it was familiar. Within hours, a scout drone from the human exploration base found him. It scanned him quickly, then sent a signal back to command. By the next morning, Ethan stood before 3 officers in a debriefing room, one he knew well. Commander Roth, a stern man with gray hair and sharp eyes, leaned forward. "You've been missing for 10 days, Lieutenant. What happened?" Ethan sat straight. "I was found by a Virellan." Roth frowned. "You made contact with them?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, sir. Her name was Selah. She helped me. She showed me their home." The other officers exchanged glances. Roth asked, "Were you held captive?" "No," Ethan said calmly. "They cared for me. They asked me questions, but I was never a prisoner." One of the other officers, Dr. Hayes, leaned in. "What kind of questions?" "About feelings," Ethan replied. "Fear, trust, memory." Dr. Hayes raised an eyebrow. "That doesn't sound like military research." "It Wasn't, Ethan said. They don't want war. They're testing for something else. Roth folded his arms. Did they harm you in any way? No, Ethan said again. They helped me understand myself more than anyone else ever. How the room fell silent. Roth looked at him carefully. You expect us to believe that? I don't care if you believe it, Ethan said. I only care that I tell the truth. Dr. Hayes asked quietly. Did they change you, Lieutenant? Ethan looked down at his hands. Yes, but not in a way you can see. Roth leaned back. We'll run tests, blood work, neural scans until we're sure. Ethan nodded. Go ahead, but you won't find what you're looking for. What they gave me doesn't live in the body. The officer sat back, confused and unsure. Ethan stood. I'm not a threat, he said. But if Earth doesn't learn to feel, really feel, we'll never be ready for what's out there. He walked out of the room. Behind him, silence followed. That night, Ethan stood outside the base looking at the stars. He could feel something, far away, yet close, a quiet presence. Not Sayla's voice, but the connection she spoke of. He closed his eyes and smiled. Earth wasn't ready yet, but maybe, just maybe, it could be. 3 weeks had passed since Ethan returned from the Virilan world. He stayed on Earth, but his life was not the same. Scientists ran tests. Military officers asked endless questions. Most people didn't trust his story. Some called him lucky. Others called him a liar. But Ethan stayed calm. He knew the truth. And deep inside, he still felt the connection. He often walked alone at night looking at the stars. Sometimes he would close his eyes and feel a whisper of emotion, a gentle wave of peace, kindness, or thought from far away. The Virelans had not spoken to him again. But he knew they were still watching, still waiting. One morning, everything changed. A large alien ship appeared in Earth's orbit. It was not Virilan. Its design was sharp and black, with long wings and flashing red lights. It didn't respond to messages. It didn't send greetings. Instead, it sent a signal, a warning. Within hours, every human base across the planet went on high alert. Fighter ships launched into the sky. Defense systems were prepared. Commander Roth called Ethan back to the main base. You made contact before, Roth said. Can you talk to them? Can you stop this? Ethan looked at the screen showing the strange ship. I don't know who they are, but they're not Virelan. Then we may have a war, Roth said. They're not answering and they're watching our cities. We won't wait forever. Ethan felt a quiet pain inside his chest. A soft ache, not fear, but sadness. He closed his eyes and reached inward. Then he felt it. A pulse, a voice, not in words, but in emotion. They are not connected. Ethan opened his eyes. It was the Virelans. He could feel their message, calm and clear. He turned to Roth. I think I can try something. Roth narrowed his eyes. Try what? Ethan stood tall. Let me speak to them. Not with weapons, with feeling. The room went silent. You want to walk out there and talk to them with emotion? Roth said. That's not a strategy. That's a risk, Ethan replied firmly. We already tried fear. Look where it got us. After a long pause, Roth gave a single nod. One chance, that's all. A ship took Ethan into orbit. It approached the alien vessel slowly, lights flashing in peace signals. The unknown ship did not move. It simply waited. Ethan's shuttle stopped a safe distance away. He stood at the front window, looking out at the dark alien ship. He closed his eyes and opened the connection inside him. Not to speak, to feel. He sent out a wave of calm, a message from his heart. Not words, but memory. He thought of his sister's laughter, Sayla's gentle voice, the quiet comfort of being understood. The alien ship suddenly flickered. Something inside had received it. Ethan felt A strong force pushed back like a storm of fear. The new species didn't understand peace. They were used to fighting, distrust, isolation. But then Ethan sent another wave. This time, he let them feel his journey, his pain in the snow, his rescue, his discovery of unity. And for a moment, the storm inside the alien minds calmed. The ship turned slowly, its weapons folded back. The red lights faded to white. Earth's defense systems watched closely. Then a message appeared on every screen on Earth, a single phrase, "We understand now." Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. There was no battle, no fire, no loss, only connection. People began asking new questions, not about weapons, but about feelings, about trust, about what it meant to truly understand another being. Ethan became a quiet figure of change, not a hero with medals, just a man who had felt something real and shared it. Selah never returned in person, but Ethan felt her warmth often, and sometimes when the sky was clear and stars bright, he would whisper thanks to her for seeing what others didn't. 1 year later, Earth joined the Virellan Alliance, not as conquerors, not as warriors, but as feelers, as connectors. Ethan stood on a small hill near the same desert where he had first returned. Children now played there. A monument stood tall beside them. It read, "He did not fight with fire, he fought with heart." And every night, when the stars came out, Ethan smiled, because he knew humanity was no longer alone.